The following podcast is proudly brought to you by Repco, driven by passion for 100 years.
Have a go at that. The visibility on the official forecast is down to 4,000 metres at Adelaide Airport. Just for clarity, the race has started, but it's under the control of the safety car.
Yeah, red flag, safety car starts, all that. What to do, how to get the fuel drop in, how to start the race.
I don't know how long this is going to last at the moment. It feels like it's really set in.
So he's in the fence for Mostert. Mostert has whacked the wall. No grip out there. Slick tyre. Car number 55, Chaz Mostert, and he's now in the wall for the second time.
The guys won't even know they were like, hey, he's in the fence. He's in. That's Courtney.
The car was fast in the wet. We kept pitting and we kept bringing ourselves back into the race with speed and survival.
Sensible conditions and lights out for the safety car, so let's get on with business. This is looking good for Nick Percat.
He doesn't need to get tangled up because even if he is racing Fabian, it'd be a strong result one way or the other. Crowd rises for what's been the wildest of wild days. The Clips 500 winner of 2016 is Nick Percat.
G'day everyone and welcome to Repco Supercars Rewind, the pod that celebrates the sport's most amazing moments. I'm Chad Neylon. This is the first of two Rewind pods celebrating the return of the Velo Adelaide 500, one of the most popular events on the calendar. Today's guest, Nick Percat, a local SA boy who grew up at the Adelaide Parkland circuit in the Formula One era, who then went on to realise his dream in 2016 when he pulled off one of the sport's biggest ever underdog victories, winning the Calypso 500 for Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport in very wet conditions. Nick has also been instrumental in leading the charge for the return of his home event, so we figured it's the perfect time to catch up with him and turn back the clock to his incredible upset victory 6 years ago.
Tremendous atmosphere, but gee, there's some tension down there. So even since we've scampered back upstairs, have a look at what's going on down there at the moment on the grid, trying to track who's on what tyre at the moment. The reason people are jumping onto the wets is they can't afford to take too great a risk. Now, you might only be on them briefly. Winterbottom stayed on slicks. I know that McLaughlin's gone on to wets. I think Whincup's gone on to wets. Probably Scott Pye, I think it was as well, on to wets. But it's an ever-evolving situation, and we'll obviously try and keep you up to speed with as much as we can.
It's real risk management now, and that's what Neil's saying. You put the wets on just to make sure at the start of the race, Rob Kolosh there tensioning the wheels for Todd Kelly, but it's about making sure you don't make a mistake in the early laps. But remember, with a strategy, you can stop early, so it won't hurt them too badly. If it does dry up and you've got to come and change from wet to dry, the early stop will work.
Well, boys, it is teeming down now, out down on the front. I know the front four guys definitely have put those wets on. If Mark Winterbottom hasn't done that, he will be pretty nervous right now. There is a lot of water starting to pool around the place on this track. It is very wet. I mean, it's going to take a little while to dry now, even though we had that temperature in the racetrack. I don't know how long this is going to last at the moment. It feels like it's really set in.
The 2011 Bathurst 1000 winner came into the 2016 season, his second with LDM, after missing the final two events of 2015 due to a nasty infection he suffered after burning his foot in Surfers Paradise. That year's three-race format for the then Calypso 500 hadn't been too great for him either, after failing to start the second Saturday race after his bonnet flew open, leaving pit lane on his way to the starting grid. But Sunday was a whole other story. Unseasonable storms appeared out of nowhere, rolling in after a stiflingly hot Adelaide summer's day. And when the heavens opened right on the formation lap, the scene was set for an entertaining, dramatic race. With red flags, safety cars, a stoppage for lightning, and then ultimately a time-certain finish, the race became about who could get the 140-litre fuel drop completed. And as Nick goes on to tell us in this pod, that was no easy task, but it was the wild card that LDM needed to get themselves in the game. With confusion, controversy, and a last lap showdown, Nick went on to win his home event in front of an adoring South Aussie crowd and celebrated as a post-race regulations war erupted around him. It was a day that is remembered as the day the Supercars rulebook changed forever. But for Nick, it was a day to remember for all the right reasons. So journey back with us to the year 2016, the day the smallest team in Supercars conquered the Adelaide 500.
Have a go at that. The visibility on the official forecast is down to 4,000 metres at Adelaide Airport, so it's going to be a wash. You will not be able to drive on this racetrack on a slick tyre unless you literally walk the car around at no speed.
Well, Winterbottom's starting 7th, and he's the only guy at the moment out there on slicks. You will not be able to drive the car. You might as well come in now.
I would say it's the best win, purely because of the circumstances of the team and the history of that event for me. I've been going to the Adelaide 500 or, sensational Adelaide, whatever you want to call it, since I was literally 3-4 months old, when it was Formula One back in '88. So I've either been a spectator or racing at that event since I was born. So, there was that element of it. And then there was obviously my family and the Holden brand in Adelaide. It's, my mum's dad worked for Holden at the Elizabeth plant. My great-granddad, granddad and dad all worked there. So then to win in Holden with, Holden backing with Lucas Dumbrell was very special. So there's that element. And then obviously Lucas was he's a very good friend of mine, and to win for him with everything he'd been through, and we'd been teammates in Formula Ford when he had his accident and all that, to see the smile on his face to have success in supercars was probably the best part of the whole thing. And, he mustered up the courage, or I don't know how he did it, to lift his arm to give me a hug and stuff like that. So all that side of things made it, way above any other win. The Bathurst win's amazing, but there's a lot of circumstances in the background of the Adelaide one, which is incredible. When I was obviously very little, I'll just cruise around with Dad wherever we went. He would put me up in a tree or wherever it was, so I could see over the fence just to see the cars. The tree's still there, the ones that I used to sit at. Turn 5 through the staircase on the exit. We used to sit there. There was no little grandstand there back in the day, so I used to just get put up in a little tree. So that tree's now huge. And then I used to also sit at turn, I think it's 10, 11, the one back into the parklands, the left-hander, in a tree there so I could see over. So, I used to get obsessive with it. I would be watching. I remember clearly because Ingle used to run the cut visor, and you could see his eyes and where he was looking, and I used to just be obsessed with all that kind of thing. And then obviously who was winning, but I used to pay massive attention. So it kind of did pay to know the place inside and out for when the weather came, and avoid aquaplaning was the main thing for that day, and where to position the car to get good traction, stuff like that. That last lap battle with Fabs, he was taking a bit more risk than me, and but I knew where to put the car to get the traction, and he passed me, and then I knew when I came off 7, just go hard right, and there's less water there, and off we went. So it was a few little things that naturally I think over the years I'd picked up and done in other categories, and watched races over the years in the wet, be it Formula 1 or supercars, and it just kind of naturally happened.
We're at turn 14, just moving through the grid now.
We may well see that the Lexus RCF safety car leads the field away, and it's a controlled start. So the expectation for me here is that it'll be ordinary and wet out there for a moment. Bit of a chance that it could dry off a little, but I think there's a strong possibility looking at that radar sweep. It's about 80 Ks, 60 to 80 Ks north of here at the moment, because the radar, you see the radar in 10-minute sweeps, 10, 20 and 30-minute sweeps. I think we're going to get another burst at least before we're done.
And this is a very clever decision by the officials, and Tim Schenken in particular, to start this race behind the safety car.
Move off safety car.
Obviously, it wasn't the ideal lead-in to that event. Not only did you fail to start the race just prior to it, but you missed the previous 2 events at the end of last year leading into it in 2015. So just talk a moment for just how bad the run-in to that year's Adelaide 500 must have been for you.
Yeah, it was, first it was always difficult with for Lucas and his team, being a smaller team, trying to get budget together and stuff like that, to actually go racing and form have someone in the car alongside me. I had Blanchard the first year, and I had Heimgartner the second year. There was always a lot going on for Lucas and the whole team. So then the lead-in was always mayhem. Just how it was. And then yeah, obviously the weekend wasn't going exactly to plan. The Saturday race, drove out the pits, the bonnet flew up into the centre chicane, just on the formation lap to the grid, and then the battery failed. And the way that car was, it was once the car battery went down, I had no radio, had nothing, and I had no clue if the team knew where I was, what had happened. So I waited for a little bit, and then I thought, well, it's not really coming. So I got out and moseyed on back to the pits, and had no clue that the team had come running down and probably missed me by 30 seconds. But, we were done then. And from the next day we rocked up, and it was for everyone in pit lane, just crazy watching the weather come in.
It's pretty wild looking down there at the moment, isn't it? Tough conditions. I'm just looking at the radar sweep at the moment, and there's a nasty little red cell that's just gone over the top of the area where we are at the moment. And so you're now looking at what I'm looking at. It's that next batch. And those familiar with Malala Raceway, which is north of the city, you can see that there's another string of cells that are also making their way from the north down towards the city of Adelaide at the moment. So there'll be a little pause in this.
After the delayed start and then ultimately safety car start, some teams chose to dive into pit lane to get a head start on pumping some of that 140-litre fuel drop. But as this went on, other teams argued that the race had not yet officially started. And so as the cars rolled around behind the safety car, the argument became, at what point does a supercars race actually start?
Could be already starting here. Mark Winterbottom is back in pit lane, as is David Reynolds. They're going to top this car up full of fuel, have that little bit more in it, allowing it to run a little bit, open up their strategy and run a little bit longer. So Mark Winterbottom now, he comes in. Actually, David Reynolds has just driven straight through. So I'm not sure what happened there, fellas, but he has gone straight through the pit lane and out the other side. Winterbottom just getting topped up now.
Sorry, Murph, I was a bit disconnected for a moment there because we're running through all sorts of permutations here. So they've come in and topped Mark Winterbottom up. So they're just circulating for, I believe, another 10 minutes behind the safety car here, just to ensure that some of those standing water apex puddles are reduced. Just for clarity, the race has started, but it's under the control of the safety car. So strategically at Pro Drive, they've brought Winterbottom in and topped that tank up. They're doing the same thing here with Scott Pye.
Okay, mate, you're going to have...
So they wouldn't have started with a full tank. Take a listen to this.
Hold on.
Frank Adamson, Dave Stewart, Mark Dutton.
You can't just change the rules. No.
So Mark's saying, and so is Perry, they're saying that the race has not started.
Well, the dispute there will be with race control, because on the computers that's actually got a flag on it at the moment.
Tell Neil.
That says the race has started. So Dutto's obviously got all the info there. So this is it's heavy duty.
And that starts the race.
There we go.
What rule number, Murph?
So it is 9.4.6, I think, there, Neil.
Thanks,
and
mate.
Mark Dutton's saying that the race has not started.
Red flag, safety car starts, all that, what to do, how to get the fuel drop in, how to start the race was the next trick. And then obviously making sure it was safe for the fans and the marshals and all the volunteers that are around the circuit as well, because the safest spot was probably to be in the race car between the two walls. Before the race, myself and Barry Hay, and Stucky, my engineer, we were kind of hanging out by the B trailer or the trucks there, and they just said to me, "You're the local. Where's the weather come from?" I'm like, "Well, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's coming. Like I'm telling you, it's not far away." And I just pointed to the direction that it always used to come to when I lived there for 16, 17 years with mum and dad. I said it's going to come from that side, and then they just spent the race watching it, and then it obviously came hard and fast, and then it was about what do we have to do to get the fuel in this thing, because with that kind of race, it's just get it in as fast as you can, basically.
It confused me when Tim mentioned
Shane Van
Gisbergen's car. All sorts of things going on out there to keep everybody amused in the interim.
Let's get on with it.
82.
Fabian Coulthard is the pioneer. He leads the field from Chaz Mostert, Shane Van Gisbergen, Scott McLaughlin, Jamie Wincup.
And in these conditions, with cold tyres and everybody completely in the dark in terms of what to expect, I guarantee you we're going to see the safety car again in a heartbeat.
As I said, the pioneer is Fabian Coulthard. He's leading this race as we kick it off The 250-kilometre race 3, Clipsal 500. Check this out, and he got a great start. Coulthard, he stepped away into turn 1. Make sure you don't lock a wheel. Got to stay off the paint, remember that. And this is where it's treacherous. They slide, check the slide. Monstrous slide there from Van Gisbergen in 3rd spot. And haven't they gained some ground on Coulthard from turn 3 up to turn 4. Courtney down the inside of Cam Waters. Will Davison there bumping around the outside of Garth Tander.
Now Dale Woods also come into the lane to top up on fuel as everybody tries to scramble for position here. Mostert totally over the exit curb there at turn 6. And have a go at Coulthard. Look at Whincup and Van Gisbergen. They've gone metres beyond the edge of the racetrack trying to find some grip and to be able to get on with it. The race leader is Fabian Coulthard.
The Repco Supercars Rewind Pod will be right back after these short messages.
There's a lot of history hidden at Repco, so listen up, because this ad will be gone in 30 seconds. See, some people reckon we got 10W30 in our veins. Or if we look to the skyline, all we see are Falcons, Bluebirds and 200Bs. The truth is, we've got an unexplainable bond with motoring. Any Mark, Dick or Jamie could tell you that. So dart in store or online today for great deals. Repco, driven by passion for 100 years.
If you're loving this podcast, you should check out Supercars' other podcast offering, The Cool Down Lap. It's available the morning after each Supercars event. Super Archive is the place to enjoy all your favourite old races. It's available on the Supercars YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on social media and stay up to date with all the latest news, exclusive video content and live timing at supercars.com. Tickets and hospitality packages are available to ensure you have the best seat in the house at your favourite track. And if you're an overseas fan of supercars, a SuperView subscription is a must for live, uninterrupted supercars action. Now, let's get back to the pod.
His manoeuvre on lap 20 of 78, and Van Gisbergen follows him in. Jason Bryant, who was the first one to go onto the slicks, has now done the fastest middle sector, which was the turn 8 down to turn 9 sector that we identified as the driest part of the track.
What's interesting at the moment is how quickly the track's drying. So even though initially I thought Bright might have been a fraction early, it's just changing so quickly out there at the moment. A couple of minutes is making an enormous difference.
With the rain subsiding, the field pitted for slicks, and a breakaway pack of cars, including Lowndes, Courtney and Mostert, escaped from the field. But as the rain crept closer to the circuit, it didn't take long for the action to arrive with it.
So, he's in defence for Mostert!
Mostert has whacked the wall. He's done it before, unfortunately he's done it again. No grip out there, slick tyre, car number 55, Chaz Mostert, and he's now in the wall for the second time. And ProDrive have already had to park one car this weekend. They lost the Pither car. He'll be in a development series car for 2 events now.
Safety car boards and flag, safety car boards and flag, safety car scrambles, safety.
Yeah, that's right, sorry.
The safety car was called into action once again, releasing the field once Mostert's Falcon had been retrieved, just before the halfway point. And now it was pouring, so much so that the teams were losing power in pit lane. And as the crews battled to get their data back, Turn 8 claimed the race leader.
And you cannot see the cars on the racetrack out here at the moment. It is incredibly wet. Outside the combox window, it's tropical heavy rain.
Scott McLaughlin just said to Richard Holway, it's pretty bad out here. That's the understatement of the year, because you can hardly see. There are days like this, pit lane's lost power, so it's all blacked out. Look at the screens there in DJR Team Penske, nothing going there. The amount of water that's running out of the top of our combox here into pit lane is extraordinary. They'll have to put the safety car out, because at the moment, the guys won't even know they were like, hey, he's in the fence! He's in! That's Courtney! There was no way he could get that car turned!
Safety car scrambles, safety car scramble. Sorry, mate. Just be cautious, it's very heavy rain.
I'm really surprised that call came so late.
I'm with you.
Really surprised.
A lot of damage to the left-hand rear. You can see the rear suspension.
People crashing at turn 8. Anyway, it was wild. And then obviously the thunder and lightning kicking around as well. The first half of the race was kind of manic. It just felt like I was either driving through pit lane, putting fuel in, or under safety car, and then I'll do 2 or 3 laps, catch back up, and do it all again. And we were lucky with the way our car was. It was, I don't know if it was lucky or unlucky. It was, I think, burning quite a lot of fuel with some issues we had going on. And there were things that we're doing around the lap, leaving it in high gear, full throttle, just burning fuel, behind the safety car, foot on the clutch, holding it flat, just absolutely using every ounce of fuel possible, hitting at every moment you could to keep getting fuel in the car, up the vent, whatever you had to do to get to the drop, basically. And that's what we did. And, we pitted a lot in the first half of that race. But the weird thing was, it wasn't weird, the car was fast in the wet, and generally I'm quick in the wet, but we kept pitting and we kept bringing ourselves back into the race with speed and survival. So yeah, it wasn't like on that last restart, I knew I had fuel, I was done. I knew Lowndesy and McLaughlin in front of me didn't. And it was like, I said to Stucky, he said take no risk. We don't need, he was happy just to be there. And I'm like, I'll have a crack.
Do you see a screen, Murph?
Yeah, I'm watching the board. I'm watching the board float away. I think I'll go out and just jump on it. I'm going to jump on it.
Dive.
Get a bit of a now the thunder. Now you heard the thunder and the screens have just gone out. So we're potentially in a situation where this is red flag, isn't it?
Yeah, this has got to be close. Isn't it? While you guys were talking, I've dived on the rules to see, because we don't know the definition at the end of the race at the moment, but it will be time certain. But we're more than 50% in, so it could be declared. I reckon that was my wakeboard with the Bottle logo on there that went down the gutter there a moment ago. Ian Leach from Timing's just come in to have a discussion about it. So they could get full race points here if there's a declaration, because at the moment there's no way you can race a motor car in this. You'd be struggling to get out of here alive with a brolly.
Crazy one was when we got the red, we all lined up in pit lane, and I literally had no clue where we were. I think the teams really had no clue where each car was, and it was like Stucky came over and he said, so we're third, basically, just bring it home. And that's when we had the conversation about, we'll have a crack.
With confusion around which cars had taken on the allotted 140 litres, the race was scheduled to restart with just 5 minutes remaining before the time certain marker. And with a number of cars at the head of the field shy on their fuel, it left Percat in a very good position.
Sensible conditions and lights out for the safety cars. So let's get on with business. This is looking good for Nick Percat.
So as you described a few moments ago, Mark, better conditions, but still very, very wet, very slippery, no tyre temp. It's McLaughlin, it's Lowndes, it's Percat. I can't give you accurate estimates on where they're at or they're not with their fuel.
And as I said from our reckoning before, of the front cars, the guys that have wheeled out at the restart, 222, Nick Percat looks like, from our numbers, now we may be wrong, let's not have our house on that one, but at the moment it looks like Percat is the man who actually has the most amount of fuel on board to comply with the regulation, and he's currently in third position on track. Look how slippery it is through there.
Oh, off the road, Gizzy, big rotation at the last corner, car number 97. Very unusual to see him doing this stuff on a day like today. It's usually when he shines. 3.5 seconds from the lead, Percat car number 222, allegedly with all fuel delivered. He might be on for a win in the race. He's already been a Bathurst 1000 winner.
And then the moment it all became clear, as McLaughlin and Lowndes pitted in the dying stages, leaving a new leader with just 1 lap to go.
So Nick Percat to the lead of the motor race for Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport.
He's had 1 career win in V8 Supercar competition. It was a big one with Garth Tander. He did it at Bathurst in 2011. At the moment, we think that Michael Caruso, who's sitting 4th on the road, is actually second corrected when you deal with the fuel issue. But what a turnaround this would be for Dumbrell and also for SP Tools if they can pull this off.
So here he goes, he fires down the inside. Nick will have been told just to contain yourself because Coulthard is not done on the fuel drop at all, Neil. So he's going to come in. Coulthard's got to come in. So Nick Percat currently leading an extraordinary motor race. The 27-year-old from Adelaide. His dad used to work at the Holden plant. Great history in this town.
Yeah, on the restart, I knew wanted to take some risk. I wanted to be there with Lowndesy and Scotty, but I knew they were pitting. And then I thought, you know what? I don't want to be the guy that wins it from being third on road. So I just drove as hard as I could and had that battle with Fabs. I wasn't 100% sure on his fuel. I thought he might have had a penalty or had to pit, whatever the rules were. But like I said, I didn't want to be the guy who crossed the line second. So that's why we had a good battle. And with Fabs, I'm good friends with him, and I knew it would be in the wet, as trustworthy as we could be to each other. So yeah, it was fun the last couple of laps. Probably last 4. I was driving as hard as I could, and I'd get away from it a little bit, and then he'd hit a bit of water and aquaplane, he'd be back on me, and vice versa. And then the last lap was fun to go door to door with him.
He doesn't need to get tangled up, because even if he is racing Fabian, it'd be a strong result one way or the other. So turn 11 now, which is completely awash. He had problems yesterday when the bonnet flicked up on this car, and then they had an electrical drama. They've had some engine issues through the weekend with both the cars, but we think that Percat has done the job. He's under assault at the moment from Fabian. Crowd rises for what's been the wildest of wild days. The Clipsal 500 winner of 2016 is Nick Percat. All subject to discussion, post-race brawls, protests, appeals and argument, you can guarantee.
Long race, it all happened.
What a great result for this young man.
It was cool to hear or see as well the crowd that actually hung around to see a South Australian win it, because I think I'm probably the only South Australian to have won it. So yeah, you could see when I turned into the last corner and Fabs was having a little nibble, I was trying to watch my right mirror just to see what he was up to and make sure I got the drive off, but also to see the crowd kind of applause and up on their feet as they came off last corner was very cool. On the footage, like on the in-car, you see obviously they celebrate, but it's still probably a little bit like what has just happened. And I think there's even a radio call, I think it's Pi or someone's like, why is Nick doing burnouts? Because no one knew what the hell had happened. But yeah, once I got down to turn 9, I just wound the old bias forward and just put it up into 6th gear and just blew the wets off the thing. And to be fair, I saw footage of it the other day, and Shane does good burnouts, but for a wet burnout, that was up there. There was not much visibility left, and it was from that moment on, it was very cool. And then obviously you could see when you come off the hairpin and come back in, everyone through the infield section was going nuts, and then obviously the team were going psycho on the radio. So that's when I knew it was probably fairly legit. If people knew the budget differences and the resource differences from us to Triple Eight, it would blow people's minds. So yeah, we celebrated properly, enjoyed every second of it, and that event, it is get up on the roof, the Holden logo is there, and listen to the crowd love it. So it was very cool. But like I said, the best thing was Lucas front and center there, loving it, nearly tearing up. It was very cool.
The way that Supercars, one of the things I love about doing this podcast is examining moments that change the sport. And I feel like that was one of the days that did change the sport, the way that we look at the fuel drop, the way that we looked at regulations around when does a race officially start. That was a pretty monumental day in the history of the sport in terms of just how many things changed that day. Yeah,
it is crazy, because I'm fairly sure we as a team, we just did what we did, interpreted it how, well, I had nothing to do with it because it was all happening while I was driving. Baz, Stucky, everyone and Brendan, everyone in the pits there, the way they went about it is, what won us the race. And then I don't even think we spoke to a steward. No one from Supercars probably really cared. That was what we thought, because we're a very small team. It was the big guys down the road of your Rolands, etc., absolutely squawking, going nutter. I think they even tried to appeal it or protest it. Again, we paid absolutely zero attention to what anyone said.
He started his career in Formula Ford. Look at the blokes from Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport. Barry Hay, beside themselves down there. He's been a Formula Ford winner. He's been a Bathurst winner. He was runner-up in Carrera Cup. There's the team owner, Lucas Dumbrell. 2-car effort for 2016. Big moment for him.
No one came and took the trophy back. No one came and changed the result. But yeah, now obviously the way the rules are interpreted and written and stuff like that, it's a bit clearer, I would say, to know, yeah, at what point can you put fuel in, etc., etc. So yeah, it was an amazing day for us, but it was probably great for the sport to clear it all up and make sure that, you know, everyone is of the same understanding, and it's just more black and white, which is, for me personally, I love it when the rule is black and white. There's no chop and change. I think that's, you know, half the battle with motorsport. It's just make the rules black and white. You did it, we didn't. So I'm glad that you know, our victory could lead to improving some of the rules.
Right now it's all about Nick Percat. How's that for a turnaround? Big moment for the South Australian. What a day. And there's the bloke that he shared a Bathurst victory with in 2011, who's also going to be on the podium in P3, Garth Tander.
Nick Percat, what a moment in your career. They call you the Mayor of Adelaide, and you are now a Cripsal 500 champion. Congratulations.
This is unbelievable. I've watched this since I was in a pram. This is, oh my God. I pretty conservative at the start. The car was amazing in the dry, and then I knew I had a pretty good car in the wet, so amazing to battle it out with Fabian at the end there. I'm really good mates with him, and it was fun to get the over and under, and I couldn't believe it coming to last corner. I was like, what is going on here?
You've won a Bathurst 1000, but I know this moment in particular will also stand up in your career.
Oh yeah, this is unbelievable, and big thanks to all my crew, Lucas, Simon Mack, James Hendo. They all helped me get a drive in this car, and yeah, I can't thank everyone. The support I've had the last week in Adelaide's unreal, and SP Tools are coming on. The car looks amazing, and it was actually fast.
To win that cup, everyone, Cripsal 500 and Adelaide 500, all the organisers, Nathan, everyone were unbelievable. They reached out, it would have only been a few days later, and said, hey, we got a special trophy coming for you. And you know, it was a replica of the actual winner's trophy, the gold one, that would obviously have to hand back and it would be engraved and stuff like that. But yeah, I've still got that in the office, and it sits next to the Brock trophy, and that's seriously cool because I'm not sure if anyone has that same spec. So to have that at home is very special, and I guess, yeah, like I said, it was going to be difficult to take away from us. It was plastered everywhere, so very cool.
In first place, from LD Motorsport, Nick Percat.
Thanks for listening to Repco Supercars Rewind. Repco, driven by passion for 100 years. And a big thanks to Nick Percat, who pushed on with our chat despite clearly being a little bit under the weather. Thanks, Nick. That's all for today, but we'd love for you to subscribe and share this podcast so we can spread stories just like this one to as many fans of the sport as we can. And our next story is a classic. We roll back another 2 years in time to 2014 and the arrival of Volvo in the V8s. Yep, that's right, that famous race for second between Scott McLaughlin and Jamie Whincup, which led to that famous interview. That's up next on Repco Supercars Rewind. And as always, remember to keep an ear out for Supercars' other podcast series, The Cool Down Lap. It's available first thing on a Monday morning after each event. Okay, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.